Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider, the show that takes you around the world to share interviews with some of the most successful and relevant people on the planet. Hear their stories and get the most important business lessons they have learned on their road to success and get exclusive advice on how to implement their success into your life and business. Successful Minds with Patricia Barnowski-Schneider is brought to you by the Strategic Advisor Board and your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider.
Hey, are you looking to scale your business from 5 figures to 6 figures or 6 figures to 7 figures? If you are, I have the perfect thing for you. What I want you to do today is I want you to go download a book. This book is going to take you through my 3-pillar system. It's 100% free. All you have to do is go to growfast.cash. I say again, go to growfast.cash and you're going to be able to download my free international best-selling book, which is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. You can take that book. It's going to help you scale your business to the next level. Again, go download it. Be good, be brief, be gone. Growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. Enjoy.
Hello, and welcome back to Successful Minds. I'm your host, Patty Baranowski-Schneider. Today, I'm joined by Barry LaBov, founder of the marketing firm LaBov. So welcome, Barry. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here today. I run a marketing company out of Indiana as well as Texas, 2 locations. We've been in business about 40 years. We focus on one word, and that is differentiation, and have just recently released a book called The Power of Differentiation, which is all about that. And I would also say, Patty, that the thing that's interesting is we work with some really wonderful companies that are well known. So nice. Macallan Scotch and Harley-Davidson and Audi and a few others like that, but a lot of smaller privately held companies that we love just as much. They're companies with leaders that have hunger and excitement to not only, and this is what we're so passionate about, differentiate their product or their brand to increase sales, but just as importantly, to motivate and inspire their employees.
Oh, that's great. I mean, so you're doing the whole full package, which is awesome. Good stuff. Now, I mean, you've been recognized as a 2-time Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year award winner. So can you share what these accolades mean to you and how they've influenced your career?
You know, I was surprised the first time I won the Ernst & Young Entrepreneur of the Year, and I had no idea that I would have any chance. And it was all about being recommended and nominated by some business people for some work we did with a client to really help them set themselves apart and inspire not only their employees, but also their distributor network. So what happened in that point was being honored in that way gave me more confidence that what we're doing is really on the right track and that it's actually appreciated. And then a few years after that, Patty, what happened was we, again, were relatively surprised, but we found out we were nominated and again won it. And I thought of that then, it was really an affirmation that we're really on the right track.
Wow, that's good stuff. I know. I mean, you do a lot of work, so it's nice when somebody appreciates it because it's not always visible. They might, in their own unique way, but it's nice when it's appreciated like that and visible.
Yeah, you're right. And I think that, awards, if we don't take ourselves too seriously, I think awards can be great because they can inspire your team.
Yeah, for sure.
And they can be shared with people instead of you just saying, hey, I won this award. Well, we won this award, even though it's an individual award, but I couldn't have won any of it without my team. So we celebrated it, we shared it, and we never brag about it, but I look at it as a point of confirmation that what we're doing is valued.
Right. Yeah, good stuff. Now, as the founder of LaBov Marketing Communications and Training, what inspired you to start your own agency, and what were some of the initial challenges that you faced?
Well, it was an accident. I didn't mean to do it. I was working at a recording studio as a musician and a jingle writer. I wrote those irritating little ditties. And one day And this was a very, very pivotal point in my life. One day, I was told by some friends of mine that were musicians that they were not getting paid as agreed upon by the studio. Well, I said, I'll look into that, but I said, you should be paid for anything we're doing. I said, now I'm not getting paid because the studio was in trouble. Mm-hmm. So I had gone, 3-4 weeks with no paycheck, understanding it. But I thought, they can't do this to this group of people, these really good human beings who are the musicians. So I got up one morning and I said to my wife, I said, hey, I'm going to go in, I'm going to talk to the boss, and I'm going to confirm if he's doing this or not. And if he's not paying the musicians, then I'm going to have to quit. And she said, do you think he'll admit that? And I said, I don't think he will, even if he's not paying them. So as I walked out, Patty, and I'll make this quick, but as I walked out, I saw our landlord, and I said hi to our landlord because my wife and I were newly married, very, very poor as church mice. We lived in a tiny little apartment, and he didn't even look at me, didn't even talk to me, and walked past me. I thought, what is going on here? But I thought, I don't know. I got to go in and talk to my boss. I go in, I talk to my boss, and I said, hey, I've been told you're not paying the musicians, and that's a promise that we have told them we will live up to. He said, that's right. I'm not paying them. And I said, well, you have a brand new Porsche. You're not paying me, and I have to quit. And he goes, you cannot quit. You will never amount to anything. You'll fail without me. And I thought, well, he might be right. Maybe I will fail. But I said to him, I said, well, even if I do fail, I'm not going to work for somebody that rips people off. So he said, well, okay, you're going to fail, but don't steal my clients. And I said, now, wait a minute. Why would you be worried that I steal your clients? Right. And he said, well, you're not going to amount to anything, but I don't want you to do that. And I said, don't worry, I'm not going to do that. So I left. I drove home because there were no cell phones back in those days. Right. And my wife was crying inside the house. And I thought, oh my gosh, somebody called her up and said, Barry quit his job. So I said, what's going on? And she said, oh, what a terrible day. And I said, yeah. And she said, how was your day today? And I said, well, tell me how your day was. I thought she knew. She said, well, our landlord is evicting us because we are no longer allowed to live here. His ex-wife, he just got divorced, is going to move into our apartment in 2 weeks. So she said, honey, in 2 weeks, we'll have no home. She said, now, how was your day? I said, well, I just quit my job. So that's how I started. And I decided very, very humbly that, hey, if I could do a little bit of jingle business every month, we'd survive. Right. And what happened was that studio I worked with or worked for that I had quit, turns out they went out of business within a month. Wow. I didn't realize I was bringing in all the business. And I all of a sudden heard from their clients and other people. That's how this company started.
Wow, that's a crazy, wild story.
It's insane. It was like the worst of the worst, and it was like an opportunity I did not want. So all entrepreneurs that are listening, I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I did not. I did not want to be in business. And I think that's been a strength of mine. I didn't go in saying I want a company named after me, or I want my name out on the shingle, or I want to make a lot of money and be the boss. I didn't want any of it. So I think I approached it in a completely unique way. I didn't want it, but I got it. And then I learned how to love it.
Yeah. I mean, hey, it worked, obviously. They always say, just because your path isn't going in the direction you want, it doesn't mean it's not the right path. Mm-hmm. Now, the agency works with renowned brands like Harley-Davidson, the Macallan Scotch, and Audi. So can you tell us more about a memorable campaign or project that you worked on one of the brands?
One of the things that comes to mind is with Audi. We worked with a wonderful person named Greg Smith, and it was one of our early projects. And he said to me, hey, Audi, now this is way back, Patty, when Audi was not a phenomenally popular brand. This is when Audi was almost going out of business. And he said, I've got an idea. We have 800 dealers out there, and hardly any of them want to sell our product. They're selling other cars that are on the lot. So there could be Porsches on the lot. There could be literally Pontiacs and Oldsmobiles. It was terrible. And he said, wouldn't it be neat if at each dealership we had one person who focused on us, and we would call that person an Audi brand specialist. I said, that's interesting. So I said, instead of the 5 or 6 people at a dealership, let's say, or it could be 20, but let's say 5 or 6, we would have one person who really loved the brand. And he said, yeah. He said, now here's the problem. He said, I told my boss, and my boss says I'm insane. My boss says I need more salespeople, not less. He said, so can we make this work? And I have this story in my book, but what happened was we picked one salesperson from 20 different dealerships as a pilot. And we worked with those salespeople and we motivated them and trained them. And we did all this, Patty, without them having to sell the Audi. It was their choice. They could sell any car, but we wanted them to be focused. We gave them their own business cards. They had their own title. I'm Patty, the Audi brand specialist here at such and such. It was great. And after 3 months, our client called up and he said, the sales at these dealerships are up 40%. And I said, great. And he said, the sales at the dealerships that do not have a specialist are down 11%. I went, whoa. He said, okay. He said, I don't want to do a pilot anymore. I want this to be everywhere. So today, there are thousands of Audi brand specialists nationwide, and you are not allowed to buy an Audi car without buying it from an Audi brand specialist, because now all of them are specialists.
That's awesome. But I mean, it is like actually a really unique method because, if I'm just working in a supermarket, I'm just selling whatever comes along. But now I'm, I kind of get a little boost. Like, okay, I'm a specialist for this. I'm going to promote the heck out of this now because that's my job, and it gives people that extra incentive. I think that's a cute story.
It is. Well, it's meaningful, because it's the identity of the person. It gave them a feeling of significance.
Yeah.
Instead of I'm just the salesperson here at this place, no big deal. It's like, hold on a minute. I'm an Audi brand specialist.
Right. Wow, that's so cool. Now, you mentioned a little bit about your book. So your book, The Power of Differentiation, with Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. It was celebrated as one of the top new marketing books on Amazon. So what key principles do you discuss in your book, and how can businesses apply them?
We talk about a number of different principles. We share 50 stories of successful leaders who rallied their companies to, in some cases, Patty, make history, to literally do things that that company had never done. So in the book, we talk about things like, would you buy your own product? Mm-hmm. And if you sometimes are in boardrooms or you're talking to the leaders of companies, you may hear them go, oh, what we're doing is no good. Oh, we're blah, blah, blah. We're really disappointing here. And I had one meeting with one of my favorite clients, and he said, I want you to meet my new group of leaders at this company. And they all went around the table and just said how disappointed they were in their product or their service or their engineering. And at one point, I said, hey, what I'm hearing right now is not one of you would buy your product. And my client, who I love, a brilliant man, said, that's an interesting insight. And so we talk about the fact that we have to believe in what we represent. Mm-hmm. So we talk about that. Another thing in there that we share is the power of words. There are 200,000 words in the English language. And Patty, you know this as well as anybody because you work with a lot of different people, but how often do you just hear the same 6 or 7 words, service, solutions, value, price, quality? It's like, oh, put me to sleep here. I mean, come on. And the point is, we have to look at how important the words we choose are. Because one of my favorite saying is, words create worlds. So we have to look at the words we use for our businesses. That's why my company has a word which is differentiation, which is us, but it's 15 letters and 6 syllables. I mean, some people don't even want to pronounce that word, but it is our word. That's what we do. So when we meet with clients, we go, here's what we focus on, differentiation. If you feel you already have it and you don't need it, we're probably not a good fit. So we talk about the power of words. We talk about identifying the magic in what you do. And that could be as a manufacturer. It could be as a service producer. Right. And we believe that what you create or what you produce or serve has your DNA, your brand DNA in it. So we'll go into factories, we'll go into technology centers, and we will find unique differentiations that we will help our clients do a couple things with. Number one, we'll name them. Because, if we have children, we don't have child 1, 2, and 3. We name them so they have an identity, right? Okay, so we help name them. We help them understand how to share the story. That is, use the right words. We pick some of those 200,000 words and say, hey, here's some good ones for what you have. And then before we launch it to the world, we launch it and celebrate it with the most important people, the employees. And if they have a dealer-distributor network, we then launch with the dealers and distributors. So we get everyone involved so they feel they're part of it. They feel that there's significance in what they're doing. That's what we talk about there. And the other thing I'll share that's in the book, it's 200 pages of a lot of really interesting and very positive information, is how to create. So I have a chapter on jam sessions for businesses. How to do a jam session, how to create, how to come up with really great ideas. So it's chock full with all of that.
Right. I think that's awesome. And I love the creativity because, I do marketing as well. And that's the one thing that I always loved about what I do. It's like, you could be Coca-Cola, you could be Pepsi, you're both selling the same thing. So how do we make yours different and special and stand out to people? I mean, it's so much fun to do that. And I love your success stories. Now, on another note, you co-host different talks where you interview top-selling authors, leading CEOs, and acclaimed performers. So what are some of the most valuable lessons that you've learned from your guests?
Yes, we have a podcast called Difference Talks, and we have been able to interview some really special people, worldwide renowned authors and then CEOs, Grammy Award winners, Emmy Award winners, rock stars, athletes, things like that, people like that. And here's what I think is really most interesting. We ask them one question, which is, what is a best day for you? So that's the day when you come home and you go, oh my gosh, I love today. It was amazing. And I have to tell you, Patty, what has really moved me is that all those really successful, driven people who are creative or talented in one other area or another, whatever, their best days all revolve around one thing: people. Their best days are when their people have done something great. Their best days are when they are helping people. I had a world-renowned doctor, and this sounds sad, but it's actually beautiful. I said, "What is your best day?" And he's a world-renowned cardiologist. And he said, it's when I'm sitting with a patient who is dying and I'm with his or her family to help them. He said, that's my best day. And at first I thought, my gosh, it sounds so morbid. But as a doctor, he was looking at the patient realistically, saying there's only so much time. So he was not saddened at that moment on it. He was already prepared for that. What he was so fulfilled in doing was helping the person transition and their family to be with them. So very heartwarming, but it's all about people. That's what's moved me as I've spoken with all these really interesting individuals.
It's true because even like in the marketing world, I always tell people it's not about you. Like every company be like, I'm the greatest in the whole wide world and everybody should buy my product, blah, blah, blah. It's not about you. It's about the people. What are their pain points? What are their aspirations? What do they want? How are you different? Blah, blah, blah. And, getting people to really understand that and dissect it and say, okay, I have to really cater to my audience, my investor, my purchaser, whatever the case may be, and really understanding them. It's a skill. You have to really understand and make the initiative to do it. And I think the doctor, he probably understood that, like, these are people. He understands at this point what people are probably thinking and feeling, and how can I comfort them as best I can with, he can't sugarcoat it, Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And that doctor, his name is Dr. Michael Miro. And I've known him for a long time. And my nickname for him is Genius because he's such a brilliant person. And what he does for people beyond cardiology is he helps as many people as possible get connected with the right physicians when they need help. So he is fulfilled by helping others. And that's what I found as I've spoken with these folks. It's about helping other people. It's not about them padding their bank account or, coming up with some brand new success story to go brag about. It was all about helping others.
That's actually a great thing. And it's so sadly not enough of them out there, especially in the medical world. But yeah. Mm-hmm. So now tell us, in your experience, what are some of the most effective strategies for a brand to differentiate in a crowded market?
I think what's really important is to avoid what we call in our book the commodity monster. It is so easy to commoditize what you offer. And when I say that, if we all think about it, you're going to compete with so many other companies and products out there. So when you start to imitate them and you start to lower your price to beat them, well, that means you've got to get rid of some of those quirky, unique things that you've been doing, which are called differentiators. So you get rid of them. And then here's where it gets really bad. Your employees become disillusioned because you know what? We used to really be good, but now we're not anymore. All of this happens, and some people call it a race to the bottom, whatever you want to call it. But what happens is you have lost the very purpose that used to inspire you. And we have to watch that. That's one of the most important things we have to do. And that is we have to understand that we have to avoid, we have to fight the commodity monster. One other thing I'd like to share that I really hope the audience understands is when I talk about differentiation, and when we go in and we're talking to clients and we're inside their facility and we learn what makes them unique, Patty, I did not say we learn what makes them superior. It's not superiority. It's uniqueness. It's the personality. So you mentioned a really tremendous brand, Harley-Davidson. Those brilliant people at Harley, who I've been very fortunate to get to know, do not ever say our motorcycle is superior in every facet. They're too smart. But boy, they do say, you know what? Nobody builds a more beautiful bike. Nobody offers a better experience, meaning an owner experience. That's what the Harley owner group is, known as HOG, Harley owner group. Nobody does that better. So what we have to realize, it's not superiority, it's differentiation. And it's that personality. It could be a quirky thing, but it's why we are different. And it's why somebody chooses to work with us or buy from us.
Mm-hmm.
Looking to grow your business beyond 5 figures, 6 figures, 7 figures plus? What I want you to do is go download this book. The title is called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. It will help you grow your business past 5, 6, and 7 figure. Go download the book today, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. And download the book for absolutely free.
Yeah, no, I mean, these are all phenomenal points because it is true. You could do the exact same job, but there's something about you that's different, whether it's just how you do it, your approach to doing it. Are you someone who hates doing the job or someone who loves it? There's just so much, but that is going to be your unique selling point. Yeah. Now, how do you approach rallying organizations and captivating customers through brand differentiation?
The big thing I think is important is, first of all, asking the employees to participate in it. So when we go through our brand reengineering process, the very first step is talking to human beings and listening. So we talk with clients. We talk sometimes with former clients of our client. We also talk to suppliers. We talk to community members, but we talk to employees. We talk to leaders, and we listen. So we want employees to have a voice. Sometimes the employees will shock us with what they think. And sometimes it sounds negative, but it's really not most of the time. It's constructive. So it's critical. Once we go through our process then and we learn the things that make the brand unique, that's when we do our technical immersion, when we get into the nitty-gritty of the product, and then we create their roadmap for how we see them being promoted. The big thing we then do after we do the execution of, could be a new website or logo or whatever, is we celebrate it first with the employees. they have to know what they do is significant. I'll give you a very brief example. One of our clients is the leading ambulance manufacturer in the nation. And I was walking the line, and one of their younger folks was there. And I said, "What do you do?" And he said, "I plug in wire harnesses." I said, "Okay." And he said, "But I'm going to leave. I'm going to go down the street for 25 cents an hour to work somewhere else." And I said, "Okay, well, before you do that, let's think about this." I said, "Every one of those ambulances going down the line lives about 10 years. It has a lifespan of 10 years." And he goes, "Yeah, that's about right." I said, "In that 10 years, that ambulance will either save or protect the lives of about 100,000 people." So that would be the driver, and that would be the emergency techs, and that would be the patient and the patient's family. So there's literally going to be 100,000 people. And he said, "Well, I never thought I was in the life-saving business." And then he stopped. He says, "Maybe I am in the life-saving business." And my thought on that, Patty, is this. Yes, he did stay, and he didn't leave for 25 cents an hour. But more importantly, he probably made sure that he was plugging in those wire harnesses really well, and that the others on the line were doing their jobs because, hey, people, we've got lives to save here, right? And instead of being a guy who just has a job when he goes to the restaurant or the bar and is talking to his buddies, he's the guy that helps save lives in that ambulance company. So it gives him significance. And that's important. And you mentioned it earlier, but if we don't give our employees, our team, a chance to understand what they're doing is significant, then we're robbing them of the meaning of what they're doing. And then why in the world should we expect them to stay or do a good job? Right?
I mean, 35 years doing this, and I came back from the era where, huge corporations, it's groups of teams, blah, blah, blah. You do as you're told. Any meetings you weren't included in. I worked my way up, but it's like I was just a Peabody. I was there doing whatever I had to do. Couldn't even tell you who the people were. They didn't know my name. And it was a shame. And I like how times have evolved and people are now including. And there's different, the new generation and whatnot, their views are different from ours. So I love, talking to other people and saying, let's get everybody here. Because maybe the vision that I'm in, thinking, they're seeing it totally different. Or they have a different, maybe their friends are different or their, whatever, their family. And they'll be like, we would never really do that. Really? So tell me, what is it you would do? Now you're getting a lot of valuable information that you wouldn't have had. And it makes them feel valued because I'm asking your opinion. And then if you use their opinion, wow, that just makes them feel even great. And they want to do more now. So it's like a win-win for everybody. And, again, I think some of the older generation companies are a little slow to the punch here, but I think we're getting there slowly. But I think it's super important. And like you say, if the employees are here to work for a company and they want it to succeed, rather than just going in, doing my job, going home. Now I feel like I'm a part of it. That's going to make me want to do 150% instead of just, whatever I'm getting paid to do,
You're right. And I think what you said is 100% right. 20 years ago, when my team would go in and talk with a CEO and say, "Hey, and before we launch it to the world, we're going to hold an internal rally and really excite and celebrate your employees," they would go, "Why are we going to do that? We're already paying them a few bucks an hour. They need to just keep working." Today, the clients we work with, because I see it and I feel it, when we say, "Hey, and before the execution is sent out there and launched to the world, we're going to rally the employees around it and we are celebrating it." And I see these CEOs and top executives tear up with emotion. And often they'll say, "Okay, that's the most important thing we've talked about all day."
Nice.
So it has changed. Yeah. And I feel it's changed for the better. A lot of things in the world don't seem like they're changing for the better. It has changed for the better. I see these CEOs as being enlightened, and they are hungry to see change that is positive, that can inspire their employees.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, keeping everybody included, you're all for the same company. So if you're just, like I said, if you ask my opinion, I feel like you value my opinion. And now I want to do 150% or even more because I feel valued myself because you value my opinion. And as opposed to just coming in and doing my job and going home. And I think it's going to be better for every company if they, if everybody started doing this. Now, tell us on another topic. With nearly 100 podcast appearances, what advice would you give to aspiring podcasters looking to make an impact in their industry?
Podcast guests or podcast hosts are you thinking about?
Podcast guests.
I think the best thing I think a guest can do is to know the audience of the podcast and to not try to sell their products and not try to turn it into a commercial and instead to serve. I've worked with a few people on guesting. I knew nothing about podcast guesting a year ago, but just jumped in head first and have done it a lot. Some days I'll have 5 guest appearances, and other days I'll have none. But what I've learned is be yourself and realize, like you said earlier, Patty, it's not about you. Don't sit there and blab on about how great you are, because it's not. It's not about you. Serve the audience. If it's an audience of entrepreneurs, think about, okay, what's important to them? What would they like to hear? If it's an audience of CEOs and presidents, okay, what would help them today in their job? So to me, focus on the audience. Don't focus on yourself. Make it conversational, like you said in the very beginning. It's a conversation. I think those are the most important things. I also think don't underestimate your audience. If you're trying to sell yourself and you're out there really, doing that, I think if not everybody, 90% of the people there go, oh boy, here we go. This is a spiel. So just be who you are and serve the audience and the podcast host.
Nice. Well, if you want to talk about podcast hosting too, what would benefit people?
Well, podcast hosting, I think, is related in that it should not be a commercial for you. And you should think about, and I'm in the process of, that journey. I'm doing them. We've done maybe 20 of them so far. But podcast hosting is interesting because 98% of all podcast hosts give up after like 2 months. They don't make it to their 20th podcast. So number one, it's a marathon. Number two, I believe that you must focus on giving a really valuable story or valuable input to the audience. Something that somebody goes, it was worth 20 minutes. It was worth 40 minutes, whatever it was, because people's time is valuable. Now, one quirky thing with me is I really believe that production quality is a good thing to look at. Try to make sure it looks pretty good. Try to make sure you're prepared. Try to make sure you know about the host. You do all those things great, Patty, but a lot of people, just kind of show up for their own show and go, oh yeah, okay, here we go. And I think the audience knows that it's just show up and do that. Final thing is, I think don't try to compete with the mega podcasts that are out there, because there are very few of them. And they're normally promoted and supported by networks and billions of dollars. And it's like, don't worry about them. Yeah. Let them do their thing. Try to bring something that's uniquely valuable in each one of your shows.
Good advice. Now, you aim to inspire 1 million people with your message. So what drives this goal? And how do you measure the impact you've made so far?
I really appreciate you saying that, because that shows you did all your homework. Yes, my goal is to inspire 1 million people with the message from my book. And that's a kind of a secret code, as to say, I don't care about book sales. I care about inspiring people. So if you think about it, because some folks would say, oh, you can't sell 1 million books. That's impossible. I said, I didn't say sell 1 million books. We have one client that has about, 20,000 employees. If we can help that client, that's 20,000 lives that have been touched. And that's what I want. I want to do that. That is what drives us. And I think it relates to what we just were speaking about, whether you're a host or you're a guest on a podcast. It's what drives you. And if it's selfish, it's just shallow. So our goal, I want to inspire 1 million people. We've already inspired hundreds of thousands. And I'm going to be thrilled. We'll get to 1 million. I don't have any doubt about that. It's not a crazy goal at all. It's something that to me is it's aspirational, because once we achieve it, it means we've helped a lot of people.
Yeah, I think it's amazing too, because it was the same. Like, I wrote books about personal stuff in my life, And, people right away think, oh, I'm basically airing my dirty laundry out there. I'm not doing, it wasn't like professional stuff, but I was doing it because I wanted to help other people. Anybody who's been struggling or been through a lot of this turmoil, know you're not alone and that there's other people, because you wouldn't even looking at me, you would never even know half the stuff I've gone through. And I want people to see that. Don't judge a book by its cover. Nobody knows what goes on and you're not alone. And I said the same thing. The whole point of doing it isn't because I wanted the world to know about all these stupid things in my life, but I wanted to help other people. Yeah, I think it's great. And like I said, even if it helps one person, that means the world to me.
Well, you're also being vulnerable, which is scary to do.
Yeah.
It's all scary for us to admit we fell short, or admit we were frustrated, or admit we had doubts.
Yeah.
In some of my podcast episodes, I've talked to people who are my clients way, way back, and I saw them act like superstar heroes and all that. And I asked them in the podcast, several of them, I said, now, were you at all concerned? Were you ever afraid?
Right.
And one of the people said, yeah, I had trouble sleeping at night. And I said, it's interesting, you didn't show it. He said, oh yeah, I felt it. And I said, well, I'm glad you're opening up and telling people that, because otherwise I thought, okay, here's this statue of a human being who doesn't feel anything. And it's like, no, he actually was very vulnerable. And I appreciated that. I felt that touch of humanity really means something.
Yeah, and it helps, it makes people real. You're not just the boss. You're not, because it is true. People put on this facade and that just work, 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 but they have families, they have feelings, their daughter might have needed stitches or something. I mean, they have emotions, but it's just in the workforce, it's like, you don't see any of that. It's like focus, so that's nice. Mm-hmm. Now, I guess, can you share a story from your journey or from one of your clients that highlights the power of differentiation and its impact on business success?
I'll share one story. We work very closely with manufacturers sometimes, and we were pulled in by a manufacturer that was a mobility van company. So a mobility van is a normal van. It's like a family van that we can buy, only it's retrofitted with a walkway or a ramp so that somebody who's in a wheelchair can wheel up on their own and get inside the van. Then the ramp activates and closes the door and everything, which is great. And then that person who cannot walk is able to maneuver themselves into the driver's seat, and using technology, they can drive that van all over. So it's a big deal. So we were brought in, and that mobility company was very much down in the dumps. Sales were not that strong. Morale was horrible. And the client called us in and said, hey, I want you to help us. Can you do something? And I said, okay. So we started to talk to employees and we talked to customers. And we looked at their product, and their product was really good. And we sat in one day, a board meeting, and the leaders were complaining about how bad the quality was in their products. There was a lot of mistakes in there. Parts were falling off. It was horrible. Customers were unhappy. And I said, well, why don't you just go downstairs where the plant is and go through the vehicles yourself to show that you care? And they said, we don't do that. That's not us. We hired someone who does quality control. I said, okay, well, let me put it a different way. I said, we have talked with the people who have bought your mobility vans. And that van is not just a truck or a car or a van. It's a lifeline. It is their connection to being as close to what we would call normal as possible. And I said, when your product doesn't work, one of your customers said to me, the idea of her crawling out of that van on her own was like her looking down at the Grand Canyon. It was terrifying. She did not want to. She was paralyzed and scared. So I said, we have to realize the importance. And the CEO got it. And he said, you know what? Let's hold a get-together at a local racetrack, and we'll have all our employees be able to learn all about our products, because here's part of the learning. Many of their employees had never been in the final product. They did their role, and they saw it shipped out. And I said, also, we're going to do something after they get through all the product. And they also, by the way, got to get in the vans and have them race around the racetrack with a professional driver, I may add. But I said, we're going to do something else. We're going to let everybody know that 2 special guests are going to get up and give a speech and share things. And he said, okay. And I said, I'm only going to tell you, the CEO, who the special guests are. Just let everybody know that there will be special guests. So all of the people were excited. They went out to the track. They actually got in their products. They thought they were great. They looked at competitive products because the CEO brought them over. And he said, okay, everybody, let's go to the stage over here, and we're going to have two special guests. And I heard people talking, and they say, oh, I bet it's the governor. Oh, I bet it's a famous race car driver. I bet it's a famous athlete. And nobody walked up, Patty, but two customers rolled up in their wheelchairs to the podium, and they told their life story of how they came to be paralyzed. One had been a really good athlete and in a pickup softball game got injured and never stood again. The other had polio as a young boy, 11 years old, and never could walk again. Both of them had families. Both of them were married. Both of them were dynamic people. And they expressed how important having a van that worked was and how normal their life was compared to what it could be if they didn't have a way to get around.
Wow, that's awesome.
And they did that, and people were crying. People were crying because they thought, this is why we're here.
Right.
So we got done with it. It turned out really well. And a week later, the client called me and said, hey, we did our annual employee surveys. And last year, support for the management of the company was at about 25% support. And he said, this year, it's at 95%.
Wow.
And so what happened, Patty, was they not only understood that this product was so special,
Right.
but they also understood the human being, the customer. And in doing that, now these employees were not just throwing stuff onto a beat up van that's being pushed down the line. They're making something for somebody who is really going to appreciate it.
Right.
So I thought that would be a really nice one to share with you because it covers everything, the uniqueness of the product and the understanding of the customer and the employee understanding their role in really making a difference.
Oh, that's awesome. I mean, it is true. It makes it hit home for everybody because, like you say, if you're just a technical person and you're slapping stuff on a machine and send it on its way, you're not even thinking about who it's tailored for and how it affects them. And that was actually really, really clever. Yeah. Now, anything else you want to talk about that we didn't already cover?
No, I think we've done great. I think you're a tremendous host. I appreciate it. I think it's really important for us to realize it's in a way, it's very simple, but it is very difficult. We have to be vulnerable and we have to look at what makes us unique. We shouldn't try to compare ourselves to every other product and imitate them. Let's be who we are and celebrate that with the most important people. And if we do that, it's like the subtitle of my book, which is Win, W-I-N, Win Hearts, Minds, and Market Share. And that's the order it has to be in. You got to win the hearts of people. Okay. And then you win their minds. They go, you know what? It's not only something I believe in, it's something that really makes sense. This is really a smart product. And then, you know what? I defy somebody to say you're not going to increase your market share. I don't know how you couldn't. So I think that's what the big lesson is today for me.
Okay. And I'm going to post it anyway, but how could people find your book? On Amazon or would you?
It's on Amazon. I ask you, not only buy it, but give it a review. I think it's great. I think reviews are really important, as well as you can find me on my website, barrylabov.com, or my company's website, labov.com, or on LinkedIn. I'm happy to have a conversation and help anybody. Certainly, I'm not looking for transactional discussions. It could just be, hey, can you give me an opinion on blank? I'm happy to do it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for being on the show. Again, that was Barry LaBov. So thanks for listening to Successful Minds with Patty B. And never miss an episode by subscribing. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Patty.
My pleasure.
Hey, we all want to scale our business. Hey, I have the answer for you today to help you do that. If you're looking to scale from 5, 6, even 7 figures and beyond, book called Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone. I'm going to give it to you for free. All you have to do is type in growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash, and you can download the book for absolutely free. I hope the book helps you this year. Take your business to the next level. Again, go grab the book, growfast.cash. I say again, growfast.cash. I wish you the best and grow, scale, and win.
Thank you for listening to Successful Minds with your host, Patricia Barnowski-Schneider. Please leave your feedback and visit strategicadvisorboard.com to get the latest and greatest business advisement on the planet. Follow us on social media for updates, and we'll see you on the next episode.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God.